1. 6 plus 123 horsepower G4 FA Hyundai Creta is available with two naturally aspirated inline fours. Both engines are good, without serious problems. True, there are rumors about the appearance of scuffing in the 1.6-liter engine due to the destruction of the catalytic converter, i.e. catalyst. In fact, the engine will not be much better off if low-quality gasoline leads to the destruction of the catalyst. Another thing is that the appearance of scuffs in the form of scratches in the cylinders, but only in narrow areas, opposite the piston skirts, i.e. in the plane of movement of the connecting rods. The catalyst is unlikely to be to blame. Yes, something similar to scuffing appears in the cylinders of a 1.6-liter engine. And, let's be honest, when examining the cylinders with an endoscope, you will most likely see it in every G4 FA engine. But in fact, this production does not affect anything for a very long time. The engine can even rustle the piston skirts when cold without compression loss. This engine is also not prone to oil consumption until rough savings on lubrication lead to coking of its oil scraper rings. 2.0 150 horsepower G4 Na. The same can be said about the 2-liter engine. Most likely examining the cylinders with an endoscope will not please you. Tarnish will be found in the contact area of the piston skirts, but in general the engine will happily cover 300,000 kilometers or more. Let's add that this 2-liter engine, which earned a poor reputation in the sportage, got oil nozzles for the Creta, which saved the cylinder walls from excessive friction of the pistons and from their mutual heating. From operational points, we note the importance of installing the most original spark plugs on a 2-liter engine, iridium, with a platinum insert in the side electrode. In practice, they nurse for about 80,000 kilometers. Original spark plugs, 18,846 to 11,070, for a 2-liter engine cost up to $15 a piece. Not all substitutes come with a platinum insert, and sometimes they are even twice as expensive. A manual transmission is found only on 1.6-liter Cretas. There are no complaints regarding the mechanics, although during the warranty period there were replacements due to a hum in it and due to fogging at the junction of the halves of its body. Let us add that among a number of owners of Hyundai and Kia cars with manual transmission, the operation to remove the clutch retarder valve is popular. It is located in the clutch master cylinder under the output fitting. This valve prevents experienced owners from driving off-road and slipping because of it, the clutch engages slowly, so its linings burn precisely during prolonged slipping. In general, this valve serves to ensure that when changing gears the car does not nod off if an inexperienced driver is not very skillful in changing gears. But this can happen with experienced drivers who very quickly stomp the clutch pedal and click through the gears. A 6MF2 6-speed automatic transmission. Without exception, all 2-liter Cretas and, optionally, 1.6-liter ones were equipped with an automatic transmission. With both front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, this is an automatic of the A6 series, really reliable and durable. It quite easily survives 300,000 kilometers or more. Let us add that it is worthwhile to partially replace the ATF every 50,000 kilometers. If you open the hood and look into the areas where its hinges are attached, you can see huge niches. Through them foliage and dirt enter the area behind the front wings. Roughly speaking, foliage fills the space behind the wings and lockers of the front arches, on the side of the front doors. If you open the lockers, you can often find a decent amount of compost there. All this needs to be cleaned, and the niches on top should be covered with front fender seals. They are even sold in many online stores. You can also buy gas hose stops, Buhiker 012, there and install them yourself. On 2-liter Cretas over time, the rear muffler can begins to ring and mutter. The sound in it is made by a damper located there. What to do about it? You can replace the rear part of the muffler with a new one. But more often, owners cut out a hatch in the rear cannon and either remove the damper from there or weld it tightly so that it does not rattle. Instructions for this are available on the internet. By the way, if you come across a Creta with a welded patch in the rear muffler can, then don't worry, the problem with the damper and strumming has already been solved there. Ideally, in this case, cover the jar with heat-resistant primer and paint. Hyundai Creta was sold with all-wheel drive not only in the older purely automatic 2-liter version, but also with a 1.6-liter engine, including a manual transmission. But such versions were not available in all model years. There is no need to worry about all-wheel drive. The clutch here is from Tucson, and it's improved. It's not afraid of water getting inside. There are no problems with the driveshaft yet. But obviously over time, depending on operating conditions, the spiders and suspension bearing can cause problems. What definitely needs preventive maintenance is the bevel gear, roughly speaking, the transfer gear. Here, according to a long-standing Korean tradition, the splines of the intermediate shaft, which connects the right axle shaft, are at risk. The splines easily rust until they break completely. It is worthwhile to preventively fill the spline joints with lubricant because there is very little of it from the factory. In addition, it is necessary to somehow assess the condition of the seals at the outlet of the bevel gear. Already at the turn of 100,000 kilometers, they begin to let moisture in. Therefore, if you drive through deep puddles and fords on the Crete, take care of the tightness of the transfer case. It has been noticed that the guides of the rear brake calipers on Cretas rust, even though the boots are completely intact. It is worth paying attention to the guides, remove them, clean them, and lubricate them thoroughly. The front caliper guides are less susceptible to corrosion, but they should not be denied maintenance. The suspension of the Hyundai Creta is simple and reliable. There are always McPherson struts at the front, a torsion beam at the rear for single-wheel drive cars, and a simple multi-link for all-wheel drive cars. Front stabilizer links, 548304V000, cost $25 and last for about 50,000 kilometers. Stabilizer bushings are also sold separately. All components of the original front suspension arms can also be purchased separately. Silent blocks, 545551A0000 and 5458480000 for $13 and $30. Ball, 545300U000, $10. Lever assembly, 5450A000, about $200. There is a replacement 3 times cheaper. Absolutely all silent blocks for the 4 arms of the rear suspension of all-wheel drive Hyundai Creta are detailed and sold separately. Silent blocks, 552152S300 and 552152S200 of the spring-loaded lever cost $8. Tiny silent blocks of the transverse levers, $5 to $10, and only the bushing 55274M0000 of the trailing lever in the original, $80. Substitutes are 4 to 5 times cheaper enough. The only 2 silent blocks, 55160M0000 of the rear beam of single-wheel drive Creta crossovers are sold for $35. Wheel bearings are sold separately, 517203S100 and 517202J001 for $15 and $30. In general, the Hyundai Creta suspension is shaken up in detail at no cost. In general, its silent blocks last for 150,000 kilometers or more. The first owners had complaints about the Creta. True, there was nothing serious about it. Cars from the first 2 years of production, and sometimes even newer cars, were distressed by spotty blistering of the paint. Usually purely decorative defects appeared on the tailgate. The process of preparing the body for painting and the paint layer itself were not ideal. Plus, the tailgate elements are stamped from non-galvanized steel. Customers were indignant, and dealers regularly repainted body parts. It is reported that the problem with paint blistering on the rear door of the Creta was resolved on the assembly line in mid-December 2016. True, cases of paint blistering on the rear door, although rare, still occur with the Creta. Lumps under the paint may appear on the side doors and on the wings without any obvious reason or damage. You should expect such unpleasant surprises on 6 to 7-year-old cars, and if we talk about the condition of Hyundai Creta bodies today, then in general there is nothing to worry about. It does not bloom, does not rust. Only the deepest body chips can turn into bugs over time. This is especially true for the roof panel. Some Hyundai Creta owners have noticed that the trunk door rattles and knocks when driving over bumps. Adjusting the door does not help, but as a muffler you can wrap electrical tape around the trunk lock hinge. But it is better to use new extended stops, 8,173,824,210, on which the door rests in the closed position. Sometimes the trunk door lock button can also malfunction, sometimes it doesn't work at all, sometimes it provokes false alarms. This may be caused by water getting into it. You can even buy a new button in China.